Everyone, this is a quick video that's just going to look at ideology in Moon. And this lesson will hopefully address the special study area, or at least give you an option for the special study area. And we're going to critique the use of capitalism in the film. Alright, so as we know, the ideology is the special study area. And again, like the other films we studied, we need to prepare an ideological critical approach question. And that will also cover meaning and response and the special study area. Now this lesson is going to use a critique of capitalism as its ideological approach, and we're going to look at the exploitative nature of capitalism and large firms in the modern world. But you're free to choose your own approach if you're brave enough. So have a little think, don't just go for the easy option and see if there's any other way you can interpret the film. You can look at the film in terms of our relationship with technology, have a look at what it means to be human and identity, the idea of false implants in our control by corporations. There's a lot going on in the film, so you can have a look at that. Alright, so as a quick start task, have a think about capitalism and ideology. So most of the large corporations we buy from, they use sweatshops and child labour and what they call blood minerals. So these are minerals, metals, different materials that are mined in war zones, basically. Often it's children, young people, and it's done under such horrific conditions that we have the term blood minerals because there's so much death and blood associated with them. And they have lots of exploitative methods, and we know this, I know this, you know this, and yet we continue to contribute to this exploration of human beings in the natural environments when we purchase products. I don't think anyone can accurately or realistically claim ignorance on this one, but we do know about it and we do just ignore it, basically. So I want you to have a little think, pause the video and answer these questions. What do you think about exploitation and the methods these companies use, and why do you continue to use these companies? Is there a cognitive dissonance going on? Do we lie to ourselves, or does it reveal a more what's the right word for it? Painful truth that we just don't care? Have a good think about it and be honest with yourself. Okay, so this is the question we're going to look towards answering. How useful has an ideological critical approach been in understanding binary oppositions in your chosen film? Now, we haven't studied narrative of binary opposition in much detail, so I'm going to ignore that part of the question and just focus on the ideology. And next week we'll have a look at narrative and tie it together with binary opposition. And by the end of the session, we're going to complete a 1,000-word equivalent analysis of the film, but it can be submitted in any format, so you don't have to write an essay. And again, just to remind you that you're not being asked to critique Jones's opinion. So you may disagree with the ideological message of the film, you may disagree with what Jones is saying, but that's not what the question is asking. It's asking how useful was the ideological approach in understanding your chosen film. So you can argue that your study of capitalism gave you greater insight into the film and made you realise that Jones was saying something, but you think something different. So you can challenge the meaning of the film, but only after you've identified Jones's preferred and intended response for the spectator. Okay, so that's just a task that we're going to complete, and you can pause there if you want to read it, but there's more information at the end of the PowerPoint. Okay, so we're going to have an ideological critical approach. We're going to look at Moon and we're going to look at capitalism. So what I'm going to do is very quickly run through the opening sequence and show you how to analyse an opening sequence and draw out ideological meaning, and also some technical points that you can use in your answer. All right. Okay, so Moon begins with a question, and it's posed to, well, obviously it's a question within the advert for Lunar Corp. So it's a question that is posed to the audience within the film, but obviously it's also a question that's posed directly to the audience. Where are we now? So it's forcing the audience to be active spectators instantly, and it's asking you to connect what you're about to see with your experience. So let's watch it. Okay, obviously there's narration going on, but I've cut out sound. You can watch the clip and enhance or build upon what I'm saying. Okay, so first of all, we just start the film with a series of wide shots of symbols of industry and their destructive impact on nature. What I like about the first couple of shots is that we have nature in the foreground a lot of the time, and in the backgrounds we have this industry, these symbols of industry, like encasing it, enclosing it in. Especially the shot on the beach, something we associate with pleasure and happiness and leisure time, and that's been sort of corrupted by this massive, grim factory that's sitting on the horizon, and it looks like it's getting closer and turning everything black. So again, just like with our analysis of Blade Runner, there's a lot going on in terms of binary opposition, nature versus machine, nature versus industry, etc. There you go, such a great shot. It just perfectly encapsulates the meaning of the film, and that that theme in sci-fi of nature versus people and industry. Okay, again we have a landfill with people looking for food, so obviously it indicates that what you've just seen, those images, have contributed directly to this. Right, so we're seeing a landfill, and we're seeing people, children in particular, in poverty. So we're seeing the negative impact of our say rapacious desire to just consume natural products. Then we see people in poverty. A lot of people in poverty looks like they are begging for food or coming to try and get food from a truck or something. And it's interesting that we focus on the human element last. So we see the industrial, exploitation of nature, the impact on the environment, on animals, and on people. Okay, then we dissolve. Now, interesting in terms of editing, a dissolve is used to signify a transition of time and space. So again, the director's telling us there that we're moving forward in time, but not specifying how much. And what we get now, and again, think about when we looked at musicals, we've had that sort of dystopian elements shown to us, and now what the company, Luna Industries, and this advert is presenting is a utopian solution. So let's see what these show. Okay, so all symbols of industry is gone. We have natural environments that have been terraformed or transformed to actually produce energy, produce food, and actually benefit the environment. So factories are gone and been replaced by natural symbols. Again, we get a slightly more utopic view. Looks very clean. And then we get this short animation that explains how Luna Corp make clean energy. Okay, and then we get now images of happy smiling people, and the idea being that there was a problem in society, a dystopian element, and this corporation came in with its advanced technology, and they have provided a answer to that question, and they have made the world a better place, which is an important phrase I'm going to talk about in a second. But already in the film, what we have, this is not an expression necessarily of Duncan Jones's point of view, but he's expressing how companies see themselves. Right, so this is an advert for Luna Industries. So you have to think that's something they have produced themselves, and they want you to think something about them. So the company itself is showing that there's a problem, and they're showing that they are the solution. And it's all good, it's all roses, they look amazing. But as we get later into the film, we realise there's a lot of critiques going on. Okay, so we have a natural disaster that's taken place, and we have a corporation that has come in to position itself as the saviour and to make the world a better place. Okay, so you've got some notes, you can pause this, and this is again just a breakdown of the scene in terms of technical elements and the ideological message. So pause the video, have a little look, and that's just a guide for you to start writing your own analysis. The reason I pause at this point, though, is that this phrase, making the world a better place, it is a cliche associated with large tech companies. So we've got some headlines from around the internet. Tim Cook, head of Apple, on how Apple makes the world a better place. Truly innovative products leave their mark on the world instead of the planet. Steve Jobs makes the world a better place from beyond the grave. And how apples make the world a better place. And that's from a website called Cult of Mac, which I was amazed existed when it shouldn't be, but it's a website that is, basically just full of zealots, acolytes, and priests to the religion of Apple. It's absolutely mental. Anyway, the reason I'm talking about this is that this is parodied on a TV show called Silicon Valley, and that TV show parodies and pastiches the culture at giant tech companies and exposes their hypocrisy. So one of the show's longest running jokes is the way in which tech companies are desperate to be seen as making the world a better place. But But what the show also reveals is that while publicly they're admitting these things and saying these things and presenting this image of being a utopian company or having a solution, they're actually extremely exploitative of the workers, their environments. They're completely ruthless in their pursuit of profits, and they're just only driven by money, basically. And the idea being that all this stuff companies like Apple say about saving the world, it's all a front, and actually it's just to mask hideous business practices, and that ultimately is what Moon is trying to say. So have a look at the videos in the description box below or on the website, and it'll give you an idea of how Silicon Valley addresses that. Alright, so the advert at the start of the film shows a utopian vision of a company. If you just look on screen, we have Steve Jobs, we have an Apple logo, which is part of their official diversity campaign. So they've got an active inclusion and diversity sort of campaign run at the moment. Here's Tim Cook. I think this photo is framed amazingly. Looks like he's wearing a halo. Obviously the colours are subverted, it's black. Looks like basically like Satan. We have the fanboys. We have the idea that Apple is contributing to making our lives better. We have a lot of great technology for people who have accessibility issues. Apple obviously contributing to solar power and solar energy. Apple actually are a company who's 100% carbon neutral. So, a lot of these things the companies do say is true, but it also masks another side, or it masks their business practices. There's another image off their website. Humanity is plural, not singular. The best way the world works is with everybody in, nobody out, which is an amazingly ironic statement. And I said they are clean energy, and they hope officially to leave the world a better place. And look, we don't want to be too cynical about this. These things aren't mutually exclusive. Yes, maybe this company believes this, and maybe Tim Cook, head of Apple, genuinely believes that. And if he does, good on him. However, those adverts, like in Moon, are neglecting some harsh realities such as this. We have sweatshops. We have people unable to leave. This image on the right, it shows that after Apple workers started committing suicide because of the awful conditions, Apple, instead of spending money and improving working conditions, they just put suicide nets in. So think about on their factories. So think about that. Even if you are working in these factories, you can't even die. You are enslaved by these companies, in effect. That is an image of a dump with mobile phones. So what we're seeing is the devastating impact on the environment, and just headlines about Apple workers committing suicide, the terrible conditions they work in. And this image here is from a mine in, I think it's Sierra Leone, and that's what we talk about with blood minerals, is that, look at the soldier with the gun. It's not really a question if you want to work there. You have to work there, and you have to get these minerals for these companies, otherwise you're in serious trouble. And the little graph there talks, the slice of the pie graph in blue, that is how much money Apple give to employees, and the red is their revenue. So as you can see, the amount of money they make is not even fairly equally distributed among their employees. And again, no one's saying it has to. It's up to you to make your own opinions on capitalism and the rights and wrongs of it and the morals of it. I'm not presenting my opinion, but they're just information that you can use to support your analysis and the ideological meaning in Moon. Okay, so just like in the real world, Moon sort of operates a similar structure. All right, so the film begins with the dirty world, and then the company is presented as the solution. Where are we now? How do we make the world so much better? Make deserts blue. And like Apple, they present these utopian images of the company, and it's all great. And we think these companies are just these benevolent forces who are, looking after us. But the reality is, we can juxtapose that with their business practices. So we're introduced to Sam. What's interesting, Sam, if you've seen the film, which you should have by now, his t-shirt's a little hint at the twist, wake me up when it's quitting time. And then we see Sam introduced in a series of shots within shots. So we shot through door frames, shot through window frames. And the second shot, interesting, is that as we see our first wide shot, Gertie floats past and obscures Sam from the audience. So there's a little indication there that technology is going to be some sort of barrier for Sam, and it's placed in between the audience or the spectator and Sam, and that's quite a good little visual trick by Jones. And then throughout the whole narrative, all we see is exploitation of Sam, of the worker. Okay, so by juxtaposing the two images, we have the utopic ideal image these companies create for themselves, but it's juxtaposed with their hideous business practices. That juxtaposition exposes the critique from Jones. All right, so he's saying this is what they say, this is the reality, and then we can sort of fill in the gap there and make a comment on what Jones is saying about capitalism. Now, the film could, by a different director, take a different slant and actually promote the benefits of capitalism, but Jones decides to critique it. Okay, so just to clarify and reiterate, both companies, as in Apple and the Lunar company in the film, they both present utopian solutions to a social issue. They claim they'll make the world a better place and present themselves altruistic, caring, compassionate entities. However, the exploitative practices behind the image is exposed in the narrative as we see Sam exploited, used for his labour, and essentially murdered by the corporation when he no longer has any value. I think that's the point, really. Throughout the narrative, Sam, the worker, so you can take, a Marxist view on this, is lied to repeatedly, exploited, worked to death. His human rights and his dignity are disregarded and abused in order to make more profits. So basically what Jones is showing here is the awful practices and the exploitative practices of capital companies, how they lie to us. But think about the ending of the film is that when Sam goes back to Earth, he's not instantly believed by everybody. So I think there's a comment there about how we are complicit in it, and we, as long as it's not shown to us, out of sight, out of mind, basically. So it's some big ideas that you have to sort of work your way through and think about. The simplest way I can express the meaning in this film is to think about it like this. Okay, Earth in the film, that's Primark in Liverpool city centre, all right? So that's where all the benefits of the capitalist system is. There's cheap clothes. It's, it's airy, light, it's a nice, safe, comfortable place, it's cheap, you can save money. There's only benefit, isn't it? The only benefit. That's what Primark is, it's benefit for us. Now, we know that a child has made that in a sweatshop, we know that, but we ignore it because it's out of sight. Okay, so the factory is Moon and Sam, basically. So the best way to understand it, in the film, Earth is Primark, we take all the benefits, we don't think about where everything comes from. And Sam on the Moon, that's the child in the sweatshop who is being abused, exploited, but we don't care about. And what you have to think about at the end of the film is, what's Jones saying about you as an individual? Okay, so you can go to the website and look at the lesson where there's a bit more information. Also, have a look at the links in the description below. There's some interesting videos, including the scenes from Silicon Valley and a few other bits and pieces that'll be useful. Your task now, not to write an essay, but it's to get the analysis and information produced in some way. All right, so your task is to develop the ideological critique established in the opening sequence of Moon with a close analysis of 2 additional scenes and the film's final scene. So what you need to do today, and we'll pick this up tomorrow, is pick 2 scenes for Moon that you feel develop the ideological critiques exposed in the opening of the film. So again, everything I've talked about, that is your introduction. You then build upon that. So we're talking about exploitation of humans, technology being used to control us, the impact that has on our sense of self and our identity. However you want to take that, run with it, and then look for 2 scenes that develop those ideas. So I would suggest probably the scene where Sam finds all the clones and a scene with Sam 2, and then I will do another video on the end of the film that you can sort of chip in on. Rewatch the sequences and complete an in-depth analysis that includes the following. So explain clearly and in detail how the scene develops the ideological critique exposed in the opening sequence, and include technical analysis and explain how these elements are used to create and reinforce the intended meaning of the film or scenes. So basically, the slide with a load of text that I wrote in this PowerPoint and in this video that deals with the opening scene, I want you to create pages like that for your 2 scenes. Okay, and the way you're going to submit your work is this PowerPoint is in your assignments folder, and it's editable, and you've got 4 blank slides attached, and I want you to pick 2 scenes and use 2 slides for each scene. Slide 1, I want an ideological analysis. I want a detailed and concise analysis of the scenes and ideological messages. So like I have with the images of the sweatshop and the advertisements from Apple and Lunar Industries, the text, the videos, etc. I want you to really go into it and really put some effort into it. I don't just want to see a little bit of text on a screen. Remember, this has to be 1,000 words equivalent. So we're looking at least 250 words on each page. Slide 2, technical analysis. So you're going to look at the ideology in scene 1 on slide 1, and in slide 2 you're going to look at the technical analysis, camera, sound, edit and mise-en-scène performance. And you're going to be as detailed as you can. Look at the way I have analysed the opening scene. Look at how shots and framing and sound is used to create meaning, and then explain how those technical elements create the meaning. And repeat this task for 2 scenes. And as I said, be creative, use my slides as a template. I want to see screenshots, images, YouTube videos, etc. to support and develop your points. And there you go. You've got 4 slides and you can approach that in any way you want, but it must be detailed and comprehensive. You're not writing an essay, so this is the work submission, and then we will use the information you put into this slide to answer the question at the top next week after we study narrative. Okay, that's it. You can contact me on my email below, or on Instagram, or on Teams. I want to see you later.